Hello and welcome to Veteran Voice. Really glad that you tuned in for this episode today. Today we're honored to have a couple of Korean veterans with us. We've had World War II veterans in the past, and we're honored today to have two veterans who fought in the Korean War. On your left is Buddy Hixton, who is in the Marine Corps, I believe. And on the right is Russell Kingston. I'm sorry, Russell, who also was in Korea and as a matter of fact was a prisoner of war for
34 months.
For 34 months. So, welcome, gentlemen. I'm really thrilled that you're here with us today.
Glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Buddy, why don't you tell us how you entered the military and went into Korea and give us a little background on that. How you first went in.
I entered the military.
Yeah.
Well, I was down there in Louisiana. I hadn't been nowhere but Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So I said, well, I need to go around. I'd like to see the world, So couldn't get a job, but we did have a job. We were down on the creek cutting cypress trees with crosscut saws. And we did that and standing about this deep in the water. And them old big black moccasins running everywhere. And wasps and hornets' nests and everything else. We did that for 3 days, and I told my cousin, I said, got to be something better than this. And he said, yeah, what do you think it is? I said, I don't know, but we can join the military. And we went to join, and we had two Second World War friends of ours as our heroes, and they were both in the 82nd Airborne. So we went to join, we were going to join the 82nd Airborne. Well, my cousin was taller than me and didn't weigh enough. And I never will forget the guy's name, Sergeant Underwood. He says, I'm going to dinner, and said, go down to this Italian grocery store down the street and eat 6 of them great big bananas and come back after dinner and I'll weigh you and you'll be in. Well, he wouldn't do that. So we said, well, let's go try the Navy. Well, we wanted to get into the engine room because I had worked on a Standard Oil tanker one summer. And I said, well, if I get me a little experience, I'll get me a job back with the SO, oil tanker. That's good work, that's good pay. Well, they didn't have no openings. So I started walking out. This is in the post office building in Monroe, Louisiana. So I started walking out, and I said, well, there's a Marine recruiter standing down there. My cousin said, I ain't joining the damn Marine Corps. I'll wait for you down the lobby. I said, okay. So I went in there and talked to him. He said, son, what do you want to do? I said, well, as I said before, I ain't been nowhere but Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. I said, I'd like to see the world. He hit the desk. Well, he said, son, you have come to the right place.
And he signed you up right there.
Georgia, in 15 minutes, I had signed the papers. And I went down and told my cousin. I said, staff sergeant, his staff sergeant, I said, he's going to pick me up at the drugstore in Mangum, Louisiana tomorrow evening. He called me a lying so-and-so. I said, no, I have joined. He said, well, if you going, I'm going. So he went up and joined, and they picked us both up. And we went down to New Orleans. We thought we was going to California, to San Diego boot camp, because we was on the west side of the Mississippi River. Well, we got down to New Orleans, got sworn in, physical, and this sergeant had me these orders. I said, hey, son. I said, we joined on the west side of the Mississippi River. We're supposed to be going to California. Man, that's like going around the world, Get to go to California. He said, when you came in on that train last night, said, you crossed the river. Said, you're on the east side. Said, don't miss that train going to Paris Island tonight. He said, okay. So that's where we end up Paris Island.
So that's where you took your basic training, boot camp basic training.
Right.
Russell, tell us how you got in the military.
Well, it was on a Saturday night. We was all out, all of my buddies, and one of my buddies said, let's go to the Army. And I said, that's fair enough for me. Blue Nose. So on Monday, we went to the recruiting station, and the recruiting sergeant wasn't there. So we come home. He said, we'll try it again next Monday. I said, all right. And that coming Saturday, I went back to town with the gang, and they said, Blue went in the Army. I said, no, don't tell me that. I said, yeah, Blue's gone. I said, well, I'll catch him. So On Monday morning, I went back to recruiting sergeant at Princeton, which is 15 miles away. I joined the Army. He told me he was joining the Army. I said, I'll catch him. There to catch him.
Is this in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Okay.
He went to the Air Force.
Really?
Yeah.
You were chasing the wrong trail, weren't you?
And I was trying to catch him. So they put me in Fort Knox, and I stayed about 16 weeks, a basic, come home for 18 days, and then went to Seattle and shipped out from Seattle to Tokyo, Japan. Stayed there overnight, part of a day, and then put me on a train, sent me to Sasebo, Japan, put me on a ship. The next morning I woke up in Korea.
Quite a trip, huh?
Yeah. Then I hitchhiked from Korea to my outfit, which is about 3 or 4 days below the 38th parallel.
So you just, hitch a ride with a Jeep that was coming by or a truck
No,
or whatever,
I caught a ride on a sea ration truck. And you know how slick them sea ration boxes are. I slid my rifle under the wire, and I had cut my fingers into that wire holding on. It would sling me from side to side when he would go around the curve. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if he ever stopped, I'm gonna get off. And there was a black guy driving, so finally he did stop, and I got off. And I caught a ride on a water trailer, pulling it behind the deuce and a half. All you could see was just the white of my eyes, so much dust, and everything. And I rode it all night and part of the next day. And then I walked on up to where my outfit was.
My gosh. Well, buddy, tell us, have you got a particular experience that stands out in your mind of something that happens?
I got a lot of times that I was in Korea that all I can remember is walking the hills in the snow and the ice. And when it got hot, it was just as hot as it was when it's cold. In fact, we had orders from battalion and regimental passed the weather report up, to the company about 3 or 4 times. Says, be particularly careful tonight. It's going to be around 60 below zero. Can you imagine that? 60 below zero. Now, whether it got that way, I don't know, but I know it was cold. And when I stood watch on a machine gun, I would take my sleeping bag and hug the receiver, like this right here, because they would freeze. And but that happened a few times, a number of times.
So it was bad hot as it was cold then, huh?
Yes, it was.
See, in Vietnam, it's cold to us was like 60 degrees during the monsoon season.
Yeah.
So we had to tolerate a lot of the jungle and the heat. But boy, I've never been able to figure out that question, which is worse, to be too hot or too cold. But you got to experience both of them.
Bad.
Both of them.
Both of them bad. But anyway, my worst time was in April of 51. That was the first Chinese spring offensive. And they claimed that was the biggest battle of the Korean War. And I know we started up a hill, went up a hill, was ordered to go up a hill and set up. And we got there just before dark. And dug a machine gun in on the far right flank of Charlie Company. Well, nothing happened. Then they blew the bugle for charge. Chinese did.
Could you understand those?
Yes.
I got to where I could understand
You're damn right.
small arms fire, bugle.
Well, I couldn't understand all that, but I knew the charge. Well, that's fine. Come on, we can do what we got to do, And but they made you wait, So after the blue charge, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours later, that's when they really hit us. But that was the worst part, was the waiting. Because once you hit the trigger and you go to firing and fighting, you ain't got time to worry about doing nothing but just saving your behind, you know what I'm saying? And I know HP was a gunner and I was assistant gunner then, and nothing had happened. And all of a sudden he hit the trigger. And boy, when he did, all hell broke loose. Artillery started coming in, flares going up. It was just turned into just like that to a major battle, you know. And we fought all night long like that. And finally, Lieutenant Norton moved us from our right flank up to the point where they was charging across this saddle. And right across from us, I'd say probably 30 yards in front of us, a flare went off, and we saw a big water-cooled machine gun sitting there. Have you seen the old ones got the wheels on them? Corrugated barrels on them? Big looking, mean sucker. But we decided, me and HP decided that night, our main job was to keep somebody off of that gun. And we did. And by George, the next morning come daylight, we still held the ground. And we took a head count. Lieutenant Norton said, let's take a head count. Went up the hill with 253 men now. We took a head count that morning. And HP and Hank, ammo carrier, and me, and Lieutenant Norton all counted. We had 42 men. So we was holding that hill with 42 of us still there.
Heavy casualties then.
Well, I asked Lieutenant Norton, I said, how many people got killed last night, Lieutenant? He said, as far as I can understand, only 8 got killed. And, but I don't know, you know, really.
Must have been tough. Now,
Yeah.
now Russell, you, I know you were taken prisoner of war. How long were you actually in combat before you were taken prisoner?
I went in Korea the last of September 1950. And the Chinese hit first Cav, hit them the night of the 2nd of November 1950. And we kept them fought off for about 3 days. And the American government had me missing in action on the 2nd, you know, of November. So I just let them records stand. But the officer hollered for us to retreat back. When he did, why, we retreated back and swam the river. And me and 5 others stayed out behind enemy lines for 16 days, trying to get back, you know, to the American lines. And we just froze out. We just stayed as long as we could stay. And we was in a chestnut orchard, scrounging for something to eat. And we seen this house down there in the valley, so we eased down to it. And we went in, and it was the old mama and the daddy, and 2 small boys, about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, and both of them was shot through the mouth. And I'd taken my first aid kit and fixed one of them, and my buddy fixed the other. So he said, well, said, y'all go ahead and sleep. Said, I'll stay in the kitchen and keep old Papa Son in there, and that way he won't, you know, turn us in. So the next morning, they saddled up and left. Then late that afternoon, well, they come in and got us. It was on the 18th. I really got captured on the 18th, but I was missing in action and all the 2nd. So I just let, you know, those figures go, you know.
Now, how many people were you
Oh gosh,
with?
there was a line of them from here to Kmart over yonder, wide as the road.
Did that Korean family that y'all went to that house, are they the ones that turned you in?
Yeah,
Did they?
yeah, they turned us in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they turned us in. Then we marched. They ain't no telling how long we did march. We marched all night long, and just, you know, just take a break every once in a while, you know.
And when you finally got to, was there a regular prisoner of war camp set up for you?
No, we went into what they call the Death Valley. That's where so many of the guys died, you know, dysentery and freeze to death. And all I had was my boots on, my socks, and a pair of fatigue pants and a fatigue jacket. I didn't even have on no shorts or no t-shirt, and that's all I had on. And then if we did get a chance to lay down, I would pull my field jacket off and lay it long ways and get under it, because I didn't weigh about 135 pounds, you know. And we never did get issued our winter clothes in Korea.
You did.
Did you?
Yeah, I got no, coming from the States, we stopped at Yokohama.
Uh-huh.
And we laid up, put a sea bag in a big warehouse and tagged them and walked out with a full supply of winter gear.
Mhm. No, we never did. We never
Yeah.
did get winter gear. And like you said, it got 40 and 50 below zero in North Korea.
And did you have any kind of an enclosed area that you were in, or a hooch, or
We was on an island, might well say, water down both sides, and the river or the lake had froze so thick that they was running tanks back and forth across that river, army tanks and trucks loaded with sandbags and whatever, you know.
the ice was that solid, huh?
It was that solid, yeah.
That ain't no problem at all. The biggest tank we had go
Yeah.
across.
And then come spring of the year, I was in Squad 14. And when I was captured in that camp, they take my billfold and, you know, what money I had and everything in it. So Squad 14, they give me my billfold back and says, you're going home. The whole squad said, we're going to turn you loose. So they put us in an old boat and they took us down the Yellow River to a dam that was built down there by the Japanese when they whipped Korea years and years ago. And then we went down the mountain and went to the train station where I guess they was going to, you know, put us on the train. And there wasn't no trains there. So they turned around, brought us, put us back on the boat, took us back into camp where we was.
So you
Yeah.
actually thought you were going to be released, but you weren't.
Well, there wasn't no trains there,
Oh.
see? So they brought us back
What year was this?
51.
In 51?
And I found out later,
In other words, the war was a long time before
Yeah.
being over.
yeah, I found out later that I wasn't going home, that I was going to be sent to Russia. Either Russia or the salt mines, you know. So there was a lot of the black people in my camp. They took them out of there because there's, you know, they didn't lose, you know, too much weight and everything, you know, and they stayed strong. And they took a lot of them out and worked them in the salt mines the whole duration of the Korean War.
My gosh. Well, buddy, was there ever a time that you even anticipated or contemplated getting captured or anything, or
Well,
never crossed your mind?
yeah, it crossed my mind, yeah. And I generally carried like 6 hand grenades with me. And anyway, most people carried about 4. But I always like to carry a little extra everything, 2 canteens of water and what have you. Even though it weighed a little bit, you know, you got stuff you need. And I would always keep one hand grenade. And I said, if I get to the point that I think I'm going to be captured, I'm going to kill myself and some more people too. But that's just a thought. You don't know whether you're going to be able to do that,
Yeah.
or not.
I think
but that was my thought.
I think a lot of us, I know
That
when
was
I
my
was
thought.
felt in Vietnam, I always
Yeah.
told myself, you know, if anything what happened where I
Yeah.
thought I was going to be captured, that's, you know, I was going to save it, that last
Yeah.
frag for me. But if it had come right down to it, I don't know if I would have been able
Well,
to do it.
I don't know if I could have either, but that was my intention.
That'll change your mind.
Okay, can you read it? I haven't got my glasses with me.
You read it.
You mean to read it out loud?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead. That'll change your mind.
Says the worst thing a fighting man has to do. You say you will never be taken, but when they hold a gun to you, tell you to lay down your arms and throw up your hands, you have to do what you have to do. This is Russell Kingston of Catawba, recalling the. Is that you, Russell?
Yeah.
Okay, Russell. Recalling the capture during the Korean War, he received a Purple Heart battle wounds from 46 years after. You didn't get your Purple Heart to 46 years after? I'll be done.
They did. They told me they was out of them
Yeah,
when I was in Korea, that
yeah.
I'd get it later, and I got it later.
But the only time that I thought heard, in fact, I just heard this last week when I was at reunion down in Wichita Falls with the 1st Battalion 7th Marine, and I was a bakery company guy. He and I was talking. And he said, what happened to y'all up there on April the 22nd? Says, what time did you get off that hill? I said, we didn't get off that hill until 2 or 3 o'clock in the evening. He said, well, they pulled us off at 5 o'clock that morning. And I said, well, how come they pulled y'all off so early? I said, I told him about just 42 of us still holding that hill that morning. He said, the word was sent up for us to get off of the hill and head back toward what they call the MLR, main line of resistance, that your engineers had put up like about 30 miles back. And that was the objective, to get back to that and then start back up again. But he says they told them that the Chinese were already 16 miles behind us. So I guess that's probably the closest I come to getting captured. But I didn't know anything about it. Really and truly, we just fought our way back. Now fighting going forward is a whole lot better than fighting
Going back.
They ain't worth a damn.
They estimated
I could tell you.
they estimated 40,000
Yeah,
Chinese hit one regiment.
yeah.
And I got captured late in the afternoon, and there's 5 of us. You know, we was froze out, and we was this old building. And I had scrounged some tobacco and rolled me up a cigarette. And this is about the scariest I ever was in my life. And I reached over to put that cigarette in these hot coals to get it afar on the end, and those doors swung open. And there's guns all everywhere, you know, on me. And this one Chinese, he had an old P-38 with a high school tossle on the hammer of it, and he had it cocked. And I was squatted down, so he held it down close to my head. And I didn't know what to do. I got up, and when I got up, he held it up in my face. Still scared.
Well, I reckon.
I squatted back down. And he put it back on me again when I squatted down. So I looked up at him, and the only thing that popped in my mind, I just said, shoot. Shoot, damn you, or something like that, you know. And he uncocked it and said, we don't shoot you, we treat you.
Yeah, yeah.
Then that's when they marched us all them days, you know.
Was the treatment pretty bad in the camp? I mean, were
Yeah.
you beaten on a regular, beaten,
Yeah.
tortured, that type of thing?
I had malaria fever twice. And second time I had it real bad. And I had my tonsils taken out by a Chinese doctor.
Really?
And one tooth pulled without any Novocaine.
But that was something to go through.
You know, they had you where they wanted you, you know. So
Let me ask you kind of a philosophical question. I know that Korea, after all was said and done, ended up at the draw as it still is today. And North Korea now, there's a lot of human rights issues. The population up there is starving, but yet they do have nuclear capabilities, and are becoming a world threat. Do you think there was any way, because of the fact that the Chinese were involved, can you think of any way that the Korean War could have been won by America and the South, considering the fact that we had the Chinese to deal with and they had so many people that they were willing to sacrifice?
Yeah, I think it
we had it won. We had it won until
Really?
the Chinese come in.
I think we could.
Yeah.
I think we could have even after the Chinese came in. But Truman got rid of MacArthur. MacArthur wanted to go on back to the Yalu. And I know we stopped on the 38th parallel for the 3rd time. We done crossed it 3 times. 3rd time, MacArthur was wanting to go all the way back to the Yalu, and that's what. And the captain, he said, anybody in favor of not going back, not going past 38th? We're sitting right on 38th, waiting for orders. We said, we're ready. Let's go. Ready to go.
Well, you know what I was supposed to
It'd
do?
have taken an atomic bomb. I believe it'd have taken an atomic bomb.
They was going to use it.
Yeah. But we could have done it.
I was in Pyongyang waiting orders
Yeah.
to pull a parade for MacArthur.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving Day in Japan.
I saw
When they
MacArthur
hollered
about 2
blew out.
weeks. 2 weeks before
Yeah.
he was fired.
So that was a situation again where politics got in the way.
Oh, yeah.
The politicians were trying to run the war, and
Yeah.
they tied the hands of the generals.
But you just think about this. If McCullaugh had stayed there and we'd have gone back and taken over all of Korea, and stopped at the Yalu River, think how much less trouble we would have had with the Chinese and with the Russians. The Cold War we hear about and read about every day, or used to, probably wouldn't have happened if we had done that, you know. And I really don't feel like we lost the war because we gained a little territory above the 38 that the South Koreans didn't have before. So we won that. We won South Korea back. But really and truly, when I really felt like that we won the Korean War, I don't know, you might agree with me or disagree maybe. A long time after, when the Berlin Wall went down, I said, by George, what we did in Korea has come down to the Berlin Wall going down and Russia being dissolved, you know. I feel like that was a total victory, really,
Well,
over the communists.
When you
understand?
went in South Korea, did you see anything other than a one-story building or maybe a two-story building?
No. I can't
When you was
remember
in
seeing
North
it.
Korea, did you see anything above a one building or a two-story?
I probably didn't get in North Korea over 15, 20 miles.
I stayed in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea,
Yeah,
for about a week. And I stayed in a hospital up on about the 4th or 5th floor.
yeah.
But when I went through Korea and when I went through Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, most of the buildings are still standing. Well, when I come back through there in 53,
Yeah,
the only thing left was smokestack.
over there, yeah.
Well, fellas, I want to tell you, this has been the fastest 30 minutes that I've ever sat and done this program. And I mean, listening to both of you guys is just absolutely fascinating. And I want to tell both of you that I have just the utmost respect for you. You know, Vietnam veterans ended up getting a little bit of attention and respect, and you guys, I think, really were the forgotten warriors. But as one veteran to another, I want to tell both of you how proud I am of you, and I'm glad that you made it back, Russell. And Buddy, you and I,
I'm glad he made it too.
we've
I am
known
too.
each other for,
Yeah,
I think all three of us are glad.
Ain't near as glad as I am.
There you go. But I appreciate y'all coming on the show and sharing your experiences with us.
Okay.
So we hope that you'll join us next time for Veteran Voice. And for Larry McCullaugh, Buddy Hixton, Russell Kingston, thank you for being here today, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.